My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. Jakey Boy and I are going to break down the entire UFC Vegas 93 fight card, giving you our picks, predictions, bets, and DraftKings Plays. And today just so happens to be a Thursday. We normally do this on Tuesdays, but Jacob didn't have internet for a few days. We pushed it to Thursday, and almost good thing we did because we've had a couple of changes to this card. Nothing dramatic, but we did lose the biggest favorite on the card, which was the co-main event. Before we talk about this card, let's talk about premium membership. This handsome man in this thumbnail has a 30-minute video walking through all of premium and everything it has to offer. And before you say, holy crap, how is it 30 minutes? Well, think about that statement for a second. It's 30 minutes because of how robust, how complete, how feature-rich premium membership actually is. And that is a very fast-talking Northeast Angelo 30 minutes. So if you want to get a peek of what premium membership actually looks like, literally see the tools, see the insights, see the information, check out this video on the channel. Premium membership is only $10 for an entire month. And obviously, if you sign up today, if you're not already a member, you're not only going to get UFC Vegas 93, you're going to get UFC Saudi Arabia with the new main event next week, and UFC 303 the week after that. Premium membership, it's all intact. Stop throwing a fit.
Damn it.
Are you throwing a fit over fights falling apart? They're all intact.
I feel it's going to...
No.
I feel like we're going to get the announcement during this stream, and I'm going to break down crying.
Well, everything is intact. Jacob and I will be at UFC 303, regardless of the main event.
Well,
we will be there.
That, but one of us has tickets, and the other one doesn't.
Jacob bought me tickets, and if he sells the tickets, because Connor's not going to be on that card, I'm going to be a little spicy about it. We will be there. If you see us, maybe I'll buy you a drink. If you see, here's my vow, my pledge to you.
Here we go.
If we're at UFC 303 and you see us, and you are a premium member, show me your active membership. And by the way,
we're gonna be in VIP, so you probably will not see us.
You probably will not see us. But in case you did,
when you're standing in line in those fucking concession stands up in the 200 level, I'm going to be in the in-venue hospitality, mingling with all the fighters and the models with my fucking catered food and free drinks.
Well, if you see us and you are an active premium member, show me your membership on your phone. I will buy you a drink with my own money to say thank you. Before we talk about that, let's talk about premium membership. Premium membership is only $10 a month. It is the greatest, the most robust, the most feature-rich premium in this space or any other sports betting space, let alone at this insane price point. You are going to get things like exclusive bets, one of which is a safety parlay, which has been doing well. You're going to get tools like the line movement tracker, opening odds, current odds, win probability, and line movement for every fighter on every card. You're going to get the detailed data, metrics, and analytics, 38 columns of information that you can use to find your spots, to jump in or out of prop bets. You're going to get the DraftKings ownership projections. This is insanely valuable information. This is information that you can use to chase giant payouts playing DraftKings Fantasy. We have the quite literal best ownership projections on planet Earth. You can compare our numbers to anybody else, including the DFS companies that charge hundreds of dollars a month. Those numbers will be preloaded into the DraftKings Optimizer. You are just a few clicks away from that machine building lineups for you. And now we're ready to break down the card. Jacob, hold on. I'm so sorry. It's WeWantPicks.com, and then you just click Become a Member at the top. Any words for the people before we jump into this card?
Yeah, I've got some, just kind of came through here, some breaking news about UFC 303, and I'd like to, and I hope that we can keep this kind of between everyone here, because this is not official yet. I want to just stress this. This is not official, but I did put it on my Instagram. Breaking news. I mean, here's the post right here, as you can see. You see, breaking. I don't know what you're laughing about. Breaking news. Yes, I will be stepping up on 2 weeks' notice to fight Carlos Ulberg in the co-main, and then I will cut 25 pounds in 25 minutes, and I will fight Michael Chandler also in the main event. That's breaking news. And like I said, it's not official yet. They've sent the contract. I've signed them. They're just waiting for Carlos and Michael to sign those contracts. And I actually put up a poll here. I think you're going to like these polls on who would who people thought would win that co-main in the main event. So here's the first one. You can see there's me and Carlos there. And the poll results, me on the left.
Wow.
I think you're right, but people are voting. I think those are a little bit softer than I would have expected, but 85% of the people believe that I'm going to win this matchup. And then I'm going to cut those 25 pounds. We're going to fight Michael Chandler in the main event here. And people give, you can see there's me and kind of Michael there for the main event.
Look at those pictures. Can you, and
this softer results on there, but people have really got they like my chances, and I've been working
in all
hard.
seriousness, you may have had the greatest glow up of any undersized freckled dweeb in the history of time. Can you just swipe those two dweeb pictures to your current shirtless thirst trap picture so we can see the glow up?
I'd gladly like to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you would.
This was me,
I actually would love.
So this literally was me junior year of high school. I mean, you can see, by the way,
dude, you look 12.
By the way, the teeth are real. I mean, those were the same teeth I've got. So there you go. That's junior year MVP, soaking wet. By the way, it was raining that day, but we got the job done, got the medal. So there I am. Look, you can see the tan line because I golfed all the time. So my hat tan line, my forehead's like just pale from wearing a hat all the time. And then you got, I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, it's hard to believe. It's hard to believe.
No, go to the basketball one with those skinny little bitch arms.
And there you go. I mean, it
is a glow. It's a genuine glow up.
That was today as well. We did a little arm day today. We're getting locked in. UFC 303. We're going to be at the, I don't know if you're ready for this, but I'm going to spend most of my time at the pool there in Vegas. So you might want to bring a few t-shirts.
I have water wicking. I have real nice water wicking shirts. Like what fishermen wear. All right, let's go ahead. I do swim without a shirt on. I've got like up here. If you could only see here up, like I'm looking good, like thick neck, nice trap situation, biceps do bicep things. It's the stomach. Let's go ahead and break down this surprisingly good Apex card. We did lose the co-main event, but it's, the guy was a minus 1,200 favorite. It is what it is. It's not that big of a deal. 1,600. Yeah, so, I mean, we knew which direction that fight was going to go. Didn't really matter too much. Just would have been nice. Not a big Antonio Tricoli fan. Would have been nice to watch him get smacked around.
Oh.
What was that?
Just see Mackenzie there. That's her boyfriend,
sure.
I believe.
Yeah, he's the one that tried to trap Bobby Green. Was texting from that phone, trying to lure Bobby Green into a trap because he said that Mackenzie was hot.
Come over.
What a fucking dork, dude. All right, let's break down
Bobby Green probably would have fucked him up too.
I assume so. That guy doesn't care about a thing. First up, at UFC Vegas 93, we already, right out of the gate, have one of the fights that a lot of people are talking about because a lot of people love Shayilan Nuerdanbieke as a dog in this fight. But we have Shayilan Nuerdanbieke taking on Melquizael, or we'll just say Melk for short, Costa. This is a good fight, and we do have a little bit to learn here. Both of these gentlemen were just knocked out by Steve Garcia. Melk Costa's 20-7 overall, 3-2 in his last 5. Knocked out by Steve Garcia in his last fight. Shayilan Nuerdanbieke, 39-11 overall, 3-2 in his last 5. Knocked out by Steve Garcia in his last fight. And it's an interesting matchup because Shayilan Nuerdanbieke is a powerful grappler. He's going to come forward. He's going to land some big throw, some big heavy strikes. He's got a bully style where he is going to plot forward. He's going to bomb. He's going to push you against the cage. He's going to try to work the takedowns. He will go from one takedown to another. He will chain wrestle. And when he's on top, he's got solid pressure, good ground and pound. I mentioned he's coming off that KO loss to Steve Garcia, where he actually looked good leading up to that. The power looked good. The wrestling was there, but ultimately he got put out in the second. Taking on prospect-ish, prospect adjacent. I don't think Melk Costa is as good as a lot of people give him credit for, but Melk Costa is on the other side of this ticket. He's a well-rounded guy. He's got creative striking. He has his own solid grappling. His takedowns are forced, but he's typically strong enough to make something happen, and he is certainly persistent enough. You will see him work for takedowns often, but it doesn't always make sense because he's a good striker. He doesn't need to be shooting takedowns, and he'll do it anyway. He's got some powerful hands, solid technique, strings together combinations pretty well. He'll even mix in a spinning attack or two. He also had a little bit of wrestling success with Steve Garcia before he was knocked out. I'm going to tell you right now, I am going to pick Melk Costa but at insanely very low confidence. When he's flowing, when he's comfortable and he's not worried about anything, his striking looks incredible. He's technical, but he makes those weird decisions where he tries to wrestle when he shouldn't be wrestling. He often treats wrestling as his plan A when it should be his plan B. He's a pretty big favorite here. I can't trust him. Hopefully he keeps the distance, defends the takedowns, and then pieces up Shayilan. But if he engages some clinch work, Shayilan will bully Melk and drag him to the ground. I am going to go Melk Costa here because I think he's the better fighter. But like the confidence level is so insanely low because he can just get pushed around and taken down himself. Where you think, Jicky boy.
Yeah, this one is going to be definitely a little bit interesting. Both these guys probably won the first round versus Steve Garcia. I mean, Melk was a little bit boring. He was just kind of holding them the whole time, but with the control, probably won the first round. Shayilan knocked down Steve Garcia. Probably should have finished that fight. Probably made a mistake going to the wrestling and the grappling. He followed Steve to the ground and then just started wrestling him and then almost got knocked out himself at the end of the first round and then hit that body shot that kind of put him out in the second round. So both these guys had the success. They both got finished by Steve Garcia. It is what it is. In my mind, I think this is going to turn into wrestling versus jiu-jitsu. I think Melk is more of a jiu-jitsu type grappler. Shayilan is definitely kind of that powerful, control wrestling type guy. And it's going to come down to whoever gets tired first. And Shayilan was really wrestling hard against Steve Garcia. Even after he knocked him down, you really see it kind of wore on his gas tank a little bit. As far as durability-wise, if there's a lot of grappling, I think I might favor Melk a little bit. You know, kind of that short notice against Thiago, and that's Thiago. I mean, he's a really high-level grappler. He got finished in that matchup, but we'll see if Shayilan can get the takedowns and keep the control long enough to where he doesn't end up in a bad position. But if Melk is ever in a situation where Shayilan's tired on the feet or he's tired in a scramble and he gets this dude back, I mean, I think Melk is probably the more dangerous guy here. I'm going with Shayilan. I think that it's going to be just a wrestling takedown, and then it's going to be Melk trying to do that jiu-jitsu thing off his back, and Shayilan be able to keep control for at least 2 rounds to be able to win this decision. So I'm going to Shayilan, but not crazy confident.
Yeah, I'm not confident on my side either because it is a pretty even matchup. It's almost like the UFC is like, all right, one of you is going to be good and one of you isn't. So let's just go ahead and find out and move on. And I did read that some of the old school matchmaking would do that. They would get some guys coming off of losses and then they would put them together so that somebody would get a win and they know what direction they could go instead of constantly putting prospects against each other. And that seems like what this is. Shayilan's a guy that's been inconsistent. Melk Costa hasn't really done what they thought he was going to do when they brought him in. One of these guys is going to get a win and then be back on track. The other one, I don't know if they'll quite be cut yet, but certainly not going to be heading anywhere great. Melk Costa, $8,500 in DraftKings. Even if you think he wins, I don't think that's necessarily worth it because I don't think he's going to knock out Nuerdanbieke. And then we're going to need some offensive wrestling out of him, which we may not get. So I don't know if he's going to be worth that $8,500. Do you?
Probably not.
Probably not. It is. We do have some line movement, though. It opened at -135, now sitting at -188. So money is coming in on Melk Costa. And actually, if we work across the board here as we work through these fights, you're going to see a lot of these favorites have widened as the week has gone on. And I think money is just coming in and people are just doing the easy choice because Melk Costa is not a person I would be betting on. Certainly not in the favorite spot. If you do want to unlock all of my bets, all of Jacob's bets, the tools, the picks, and everything else, go to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member. It is only $10 for an entire month. And as we all know, this month includes this card, Saudi Arabia, and then UFC 303. Couple of super chats. Godson Jarvo, RIP my boy Benny. Comicstorian on YouTube. Did this guy die?
Comicstorian.
Comicstorian. Like he tells
YouTuber
stories.
Ben, Comicstorian Potter's death revealed as a tragic single car accident where his car flipped.
Damn, that is unfortunate. Car accident. There was a kid in the neighborhood coming home from college that just last week got into a car accident and died. That's got to be...
Great story.
I'm too raw with the 279 Canadian. Happy early Father's Day.
Fuck you wishing
boys.
me happy Father's Day for.
You're a fur dad.
Shouldn't give me shit.
Viva la Brasil. Yeah, my kids didn't give me shit for my birthday, so it is what it is. Thank you very much for the 279. Let's go ahead and move on. Next up at UFC Vegas 93, we have Julia Polastri taking on Josefine Knutsson. Josefine Knutsson undefeated in her career, 7-0. She is She is coming off a dominant win over Marnik Man in her UFC debut. She's taking on Julia Polastri. Julia Polastri, 12-3 in her career, riding a 4-fight win streak into her UFC debut. This is another controversial spot. It's controversial because of Jakey's pick on this, but also controversial because a lot of people are convinced that Josefine Knutsson is like the real deal, that she's the next big thing in this division. And I get it to a certain extent. She's certainly an accomplished kickboxer. She uses forward pressure. She's got nice combinations, and she likes to overwhelm her opponents. The volume is impressive on her way in, and she does a really good job blasting your legs when she's on the way out. While she is a striker, she can grapple as well. She's got a whole bunch of wrestling takedowns, good heavy top pressure, and she does a really good job of mixing those two and working between the two of those. I agree with everybody. Joseph Knutsson is a very good, well-rounded fighter. Where I disagree with a lot of people just assume Julia sucks and she's going to get smoked. A lot of people just look at the Josefine Knutsson side and then just call it a day, don't even care about the other side, because Julia Polastri is good. She's a very well-rounded fighter herself. 6 striking, solid grappling. Her striking technique is clean, plenty of straight punches and kicks. She does have power for this division, but she doesn't really chase. She'll take her time. If she lands, she lands. She'll reset and she'll keep going. She does get taken down pretty easily though, but when she is on the ground, she's got solid BJJ. She will hunt for submissions. I think that Julia, I don't know if she's the more technical striker, but she is certainly the more dangerous striker. Without question, has the more powerful striking. The reason I'm picking Josefine Knutsson here, and the reason I'm picking her at a pretty high confidence, is because Julia can get taken down, and Josephine does a phenomenal job working in takedowns. Outside of that, I think Julia wins the striking exchanges. Julia lands with more meaningful power, and Julia is going to be a lot of trouble for Josephine. But all that means is that Josephine's going to wrestle even more than she normally would. So Josephine is my pick, but I do have a bet on Julia Polastri. I got win inside the distance decision, no action, because Josephine's not finishing anybody. And if there is a finish in this fight, it will be on the Julia side. What do you think, Jakey boy?
Yeah, Julia is my lock of the week, and not super confident in it. I mean, it's a lock of the week, but I picked 2 underdogs. Shayilan was one, Julia was the other. I told myself I'm never picking against a Brazilian for lock of the week ever again because it cost me my last 2 lock of the week. So it defaulted to Julia. I think it's going to be a close matchup. It's probably going to be a decision. It's probably going to come down to whatever kind of mood the judges are in that night, where they want control, power, volume, pressure. I mean, who knows? But what I do know about Julia is she is a tough fucking girl, man. She is a tough fucking girl. She doesn't have footwork. She doesn't do a lot of movement. She just stands there and she just gets fucking hit. And I assume that Josephine's probably going to just light her ass up. But she's kind of got this weird modified Philly shell to where she kind of blocks with this hand and she'll just eat shots and then return shots. And it almost seems, I mentioned in the Lock of the Week video, you're probably not familiar with Vibranium from Black Panther, but basically it absorbs all the damage and then it respawns all the damage that it absorbs like 10 times. And it feels like that's what Julia does in the striking. The more she gets hit, the more pressure she puts on these girls and the more power that she dishes out. It's pretty wild the way she just walks through shots and just keeps walking girls down. And she's losing all these exchanges, and then all of a sudden the other girls are tired. They've just been backing up the whole time, and then she starts landing off some decent combinations. You mentioned the wrestling. I mean, taking down a girl like Marnik Man is like, Marnik Man's not a UFC level type girl. I know she got wrestling in the past or whatever. Julia came in Contender Series, got mauled a little bit by Jasmine Judice, cleaned up everything after that. Now she has used her own offensive wrestling and grappling. When she gets taken down, you can see that she's immediately to the butterfly. She's trying to sweep. She's getting back to the feet. This girl does not mess around. She does not give a fuck. She is going to get there. She is going to probably get hit, but she is not going to back up. And as long as she doesn't get tired, which she could, we've seen UFC debuts happen time and time again where that happens. I think she's going to be walking forward, and she can do enough inside of rounds to have bigger moments to win her those rounds. But it's probably going to be a close fight, and we'll see how it plays out. But obviously, Julia's the lock of the week, but this isn't a typical lock of the week, probably. But nobody gives a fuck about that. I mean, if it loses, they're going to be like,
No, the circumstances never.
It doesn't matter how many times. I mean, just like last week, I was like, this is dangerous. I even told fucking, he didn't open my message, but I even told fucking Charlie Radke, hey, those knees up the middle, they're going to be there. Fucking, nobody gives a fuck.
Especially, sorry, I thought you would talk a little longer. Somebody commented, Jacob's on a skid or something like that. And I was like, he's 7-3 in the last 10. He lost 2. 7-3 in the last 10. I wouldn't go as far as like fell off a cliff. Yeah, they lost. But relax. I don't think Julia wins though. So unfortunately, I do think that extends. But I think it, oh God. I almost died. You would have had the, Tiffany's not home. Do you know CPR?
I wouldn't even make the trip.
Oh, wow. When you had your little McDonald's delivery mishap, I was very concerned for you and offered to come save your life.
I got a text at 8 in the morning.
No, it was like 5. You called me at like 3.
No,
but I would have come over.
And I was literally dying of an overdose.
Accidental. No, inadvertent. Either way, guys. $9,100 in DraftKings Fantasy. The only way Josefine Knutsson is worth that money is if she wrestles her ass off. That is the only way. She's not going to finish Julia. Julia is durable. Julia is tough. Julia can do a lot of things. And Josephine's not this prolific finisher. So for Josefine to be worth the $9,100, she will absolutely need to just wrestle her ass off. I don't know if she does.
I don't think she's gonna wrestle. She's gonna be the better striker.
I think she's a more technical striker, but not the more dangerous one. I think she will feel the power and then be like, "Oh shit!" Start wrestling.
She's gonna. This is how it's gonna play out. Is she gonna strike with her? She's gonna be having success because she's the faster striker. She's probably the cleaner striker. And then once, just like every other girl that seems to face Julia, once that's not really working and Julia's still in her face and she starts backing up, then she's going to turn to the wrestling, but then it's too fucking late, right? When you start wrestling when you're tired to try and relieve yourself,
you do the
especially off your back foot
tired.
when you're not really a all-in wrestler, I mean, it doesn't fucking work. And Julia's going to stuff those takedowns and really put it to her.
Well, if you think Josephine's going to have success with the wrestling, she is worth the $9,100. If you don't, she's not. I don't necessarily think I'm going to have her in my lineup at $9,100. I mentioned I do have that bet on Julia, the win inside the distance decision, no action. If Julia finishes Josefine Knutsson, I'll get paid. If she goes to a decision, which is the most likely outcome here, win or lose, I will get a full refund on that bet. But I decided to hop in on the more dangerous fighter in this matchup. If you want to check out all of Jacob's bets for this card, my bets, and the others, WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member. It is only $10 for an entire month. We do have a super chat from Christian. Christian says, Jacob loves handsome women. Do you have a response for that?
I don't know if he's talking about anybody in this matchup because they're both good-looking girls.
Yeah, Julia's not ugly. So I don't know what that's about. I agree. Next up, at UFC Vegas 93, we have Jeka Saragih taking on Westin Wilson. This is a fight that they're expecting to end very, very quickly. And while I do understand Jeka's got that one-punch power, and Westin Wilson was just knocked out by an elderly man, Westin Wilson is also a giant. We got Jeka Saragih 4-1 in his last 5, 14-3 in the entirety of his career, and he's coming off of the first UFC win under his belt. Taking on Westin Wilson, 16-9 overall. 3-2 in his last 5. He is looking for his first win in the UFC as well. Jeka Saragih is a powerful guy. He essentially is just all one punch. He's so powerful, he doesn't necessarily need to do anything else. He just will move forward and land that big punch. He does look for the chin. More often than not, he has found that chin. What's even more impressive, though, is that he does have grappling. He does have BJJ as well. He can work in some takedowns. He can work submissions if he doesn't find that power. Overall, he's actually a decent fighter, a well-rounded guy, but he does tend to headhunt. He's coming off that bounce-back win over Lucis. Oh, my God, I'm a disaster. The bounce-back win over Lucas Alexander, where he knocked him out in the first round. He's taking on Westin Wilson. Westin Wilson punched his ticket into the UFC with a short-notice step-up. And as we all know, you get that short notice step up, they give you a couple of thank you for that. Here's a couple of other opportunities. He's a karate-style striker. He's got that really long base with the low hands. He's got that in and out movement, but he's way too hesitant, way too hittable. When he flows, there's glimpses of Wonder Boy, right? Every now and then, did what he was supposed to do. For the most part, he gets hit, and he gets hit hard. He doesn't really have the best wrestling, so if he is getting hit, he can't go ahead and force something to the ground. If it ends up on the ground, he's got pretty good jiu-jitsu. He's very long, and he can use that length to snatch something up, wrap you up, and make something happen. At the end of the day, Jeka has to be the pick here. He's an insanely powerful guy. Westin Wilson gets chinned. It has to be that simple. But if you look a little closer at Westin Wilson, he got beat by a couple of very good fighters. He got beat in the UFC by two fighters that would absolutely destroy Jeka. So I am going to pick Jeka. I do think he wins this fight. And if you want to bet on him, then the best value you'll get, the most likely outcome is Jeka Saragih inside the distance or Jeka Saragih by knockout. But if all of a sudden Westin Wilson is really long and it's not easy to get to his chin, and Jeka's headhunting, and this fight goes a little long and he's a little sloppy and then a little tired because he does get wild, that bet's going to be a little annoying. But Jeka's going to be the pick. I don't feel he is as good as these odds should be, but I don't necessarily think Westin Wilson is full-blown UFC caliber just yet. What do you think, Jakey boy?
Yeah, I don't trust Jeka. I mean, he was a lock of the week. He lost his lock of the week in a fight that he shouldn't have lost. Got taken down on the ground. It looked like he didn't know what the fuck he was doing as soon as it hit the ground. It was the wildest thing I've ever seen. He was getting lit up in the first round. Was just sticking his tongue out. Wasn't taking it serious. Even in that fight against Lucas Alexander, he got clipped a little bit before he ended up finding the finish. And if you watch that Westin Wilson fight, I know he got rolled by Brady, and then against John Silva, he was getting hit as well. But he landed some decent shots that probably would clip a guy like Jeka. And even when he was hurt, he still got a takedown versus John Silva. He gets a takedown, ends up on top of Jeka. Jeka's in real fucking trouble. So I understand Jeka should win this, and people are like, oh, Westin Wilson doesn't put his hands up and he gets hit, and 1 + 1 = 2. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. I'm picking Jeka, but I don't trust him for fucking shit.
I agree. I completely agree with everything you said. 1 + 1 = 2. That's the only way you can get to Jeka, because Westin Wilson lost to John Silva, who's like a phenomenal, very powerful kickboxer. He would sleep Jeka. And then Joe Anderson Brito, who is literally the most dangerous person at this weight class. He would sleep
Brito's
Jeka.
a wild dude that just gets in your face.
Yeah.
John Silva's a really, really good kind of just weight counter-strike type of guy. So Westin was just kind of like, I don't know what to do. And every time he would throw, he would just get hit. Jeka's a little bit more wild. He's going to take chances. He knows this guy is coming off two finishes, right? 2 first-round finishes. He's going to come in swinging wild. And if Westin times a takedown, or even if he lands a decent shot, he's going to be in fucking trouble.
Or Jeka could gas headhunting. He does tend to headhunt.
Trust him, but you're picking him. Yeah, I mean, I'm not betting him, dude.
We literally have to make a pick. Yeah, look at this, dude. We have to make a pick. What are we gonna do? Like, I don't know, move on? No, we have to make a pick. But picks and bets are not the same thing, right? Where you actually put your money is a completely different indicator of who you're gonna pick to win, because we're live on a broadcast breaking down freaking fights. $9,300 in DraftKings. If you're doing a large tournament entry, you probably got to give it a shot, right? Yeah, you probably got to give it a shot. He does knock people out. Westin has been knocked out. But if you have a nice, safe cash game, I think there's other spots on this card where you can make some more money or be a little safer, because if Jeka doesn't get the knockout, I don't know how much there is to offer outside of that.
I mean, here's what I'll say about this is, if you watch Westin Wilson's last 2 fights, right, you've seen what Jeka can do to people. You match these 2 guys up. Jeka should be fucking minus 700, minus 800.
Yeah, why is he not? Yeah.
There
you go. Well, if you do want to unlock the picks, the bets, the DraftKings plays, the optimizer, the FanDuel plays, the prize picks, the underdog, and a million other things I didn't mention, go to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member. It is only $10 for an entire month's worth of access. What are you eating there? Barbecue chips?
It's called, none of your fucking business.
That's like a weird name for a chip. Is it barbecue? I'm watching you eat it. It's making me like, oh man.
No, it's not barbecue.
Sour cream and cheddar. Sour cream and cheddar. They're orange. Just cheddar. Are they Ruffles? Hold a chip. Let's see if we can do this. Hold it up like this, and I'll see if I can guess what it is.
Well, that would be way too easy, unfortunately.
Oh, so it's a Ruffle. Oh, it's a Dorito then. Is it a Dorito?
Yeah, it's the Dorito.
Oh, there you go. That would be too easy. All right. I was excited to do that, honestly. I've always wanted somebody to try to get me with like the Pepsi Coke challenge. Never in my life would I not know the difference between Pepsi or Coke. Sprite or 7-Up, so tricky. That one could be a little tricky. But even then, I think I know what Sprite tastes like.
Anything and everything. Even different root beers.
I hate root beer. I never drink root beer. I despise it.
A&W. I would struggle between A&W and Mug, but Barks is fucking disgusting.
It has bite.
Barks have the bite.
Those commercials growing up. Next up, at UFC Vegas 93, we have Carli Judice taking on Gabriella Fernandes. Carli Judice, only 3-1 in the entirety of her career. And you would say, oh, she must have been like a world-class kickboxer that toured the world and is 50-0 as a professional and then came over to MMA, and that's why her record is so insignificant. No, she's just 3-1 in MMA. And she's taking on Gabriella Fernandes, 8-3 in her career, 3-2 in her last 5. She is looking for her first UFC win. Carli Judice is a striker, though. She's got some decent combinations, some good volume. She does a good job mixing in punches and kicks, and then she'll alternate between the two very quickly. She sets a nice pace. She can move forward, throwing those combinations for an entire fight. She can be taken down, though. But she's got a solid get-up game where you take her down and you can have a hard time settling because she's always moving. She's always working her way back up. She is coming off a close decision loss on the Contender Series, which apparently was enough to get her a full UFC contract. She's taking on Gabriella Fernandes. Gabriella has had an unfortunate run in the UFC as well. But Gabriella is pretty good. She's a powerful striker. She's very big. She's strong. She is fast, and she is technical. She got solid striking and solid BJJ as well. It's the in-between that she lacks. Takedown defense is not great. It's mostly just her being bigger and stronger and less about her using the proper techniques. She does have solid BJJ. She can work well off of her back, almost too well, where she's just comfortable on her back trying to make stuff happen instead of creating scrambles, instead of creating space and trying to work her way back up to her feet. She'll play that BJJ game, and it has not worked out for her yet. She's coming off that loss to Teresa Bleda, where she gave up 3 takedowns. Gabriella is a decent favorite here. Not tremendous, but a big enough favorite that you would look at it and say, oh, she should win. And then you jump into the tape study, and you look around a little bit, and you're like, listen, I get it. She's technically big, right? She feels big for this weight class, and she is a powerful striker, but she can't wrestle for shit. And how many people is she actually going to submit off of her back? Problem is, she's not necessarily fighting somebody that's going to take her down. She's not fighting Jasmine Jasudavicius. She's not fighting Teresa Bleda. She's fighting Carli Judice, who's going to look to strike with her and stay in her face with volume. I think Carli can move forward, have the volume, stay in Gabriella's face, back Gabriella up, but Gabriella's going to land the bigger, more powerful strikes. It'll get Carli slowing down. It'll get Carli to back up. Gabriella is going to be the pick, but this is a razor-thin fight that should be 50-50. And after last week, where all 3 underdog women won, I would be very cautious before I spent money on this fight. What do you think, Chicky boy?
Yeah, Carli is a girl that kind of cost me a lot of money on that Contender Series fight because everyone in the chat, I do these Contender Series streams, and I don't know anything about any fighters. And I rely on the chat to tell me this and that about who's going to be. And everyone's like, oh my God, Carli's going to roll this girl. She's a great striker. She's got these first-round finishes. And then she came in, and she was really put to the test by that other chick, Ernesta. I mean, the volume that Ernesta was throwing was wild. But what that told me about Carli is a couple things. One is she probably wasn't as good as people thought. But another is, I mean, that young in your career, and you've only had first-round finishes to go tit for tat for 3 fucking rounds and not back up and really kind of push the pressure and fight back. It showed the toughness that she can bring, and she's a young girl. She's going to be learning fast. I believe in this fight she is going to be competitive, but this probably is a fight that is tailor-made for Gabriella. She's the more experienced striker. She's probably the cleaner striker with more power, and she's finally fighting somebody that isn't going to be diving for her legs every 3 or 4 minutes. So this should be a Gabriella play. I think Carli could be there, maybe to be able to steal a round or something like that, but I'm going Gabriella.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in that same boat. And it does suck because Carli has that just forward, super busy, stay-in-your-face style. And that could work against another striker, but I think Gabriella, too technical, hits too hard. That's the fight she wants. She hasn't gotten that fight yet. She was brought into the UFC as a striker, and she just fought 2 women that just took her down whenever they wanted to. And now she's finally going to get a matchup that she wants against somebody that only has 4 professional fights.
Yeah, it's on the Gabriella side too. It was good that she had those fights and also didn't give up. Because how many times we've seen these big, especially these big female Brazilian strikers that they get taken down, they're just like, ugh, like over it, and they get finished off the rip or whatever like that. So she hung tough. I mean, she never gave up, didn't get finished. So this should be a tailor-made fight for her.
Absolutely, I completely agree. But I'm not spending $9,000 in DraftKings. That's absurd. We have some of the weirdest pricing in DraftKings this week. We have some people that should be very clear expensive favorites. And then we have Gabriella Fernandes, only minus 161 on the betting odds, but $9,000 for DraftKings fantasy salary. You think she's worth that $9,000?
Probably not.
The over 2.5 is expensive. Like, I don't understand how she'll get to that 9,000. She's not a wrestler by any means, so she's not going to score those points. This fight is expected to go the distance. $9,000 is an absurd price point. And luckily for you, we break down all of those salaries. And we have an optimizer that will build DraftKings lineups for you. We will give you the information that you need. Not only the picks, not only the bets, not only the artificial intelligence, but everything that you need heading into a fight week. Just go to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member, and you can unlock all of it for only $10 an entire month, and that will include UFC 303 as well as UFC Saudi Arabia next week. We have this absolute muppet saying, you want to bet Angelo picks a favorite in the next one? And then he says he's going to praise how good the underdog is and then choose a favorite. Hey, Dicklick, I picked 5 underdogs on this card. 5 underdogs on this card. And also, 2 cards ago, every favorite won except one. Alex Morono was the only dumb asshole who didn't win as a favorite.
Oh, and that's one of the weeks I got trashed for fucking lock of the week. People are like, what a horrible pick. It's like,
who is it? Yeah, you weren't going to pick friggin'
Nico. Like, what the fuck?
Nico Chinny Price.
Horrible pick. Okay.
People love underdogs, and I get it. The plus next to the money and like that payout. I totally get it. I get it. But sometimes underdogs don't win. They're not supposed to win. And that card was a perfect example. UFC 302 was a perfect example. One single underdog, 13 fights, one underdog won.
Well, technically, Kopylov closed as a dog, but
he wasn't 99% of the week, though. But yes,
right. And I would have picked if he was an underdog on Sunday, he probably would have been a lock of the week, but he wasn't. And that's when I started doing the videos and stuff. So
he didn't
kind of handcuff sometimes, guys.
Yeah, I mean it is funny because you have pigeonholed is like an odd word, but you are, if you did a lock of the week video and you did it literally, and it was a favorite, you'd get fucking annihilated. People would rip you to shreds for doing that. So you have to pick a dog, and then sometimes dogs do what dogs do. You know, your 2024 record for lock of the week is like phenomenal. The ROI on lock of the week in 2024 is like some astronomical number right now. It's crazy.
Nobody gives a shit.
That's what have you done for me lately? Next up at UFC Vegas 93, we have Brady Hiestand taking on the trying to become a meme Garrett Armfield. Brady Hiestand 7-2 in his career, 3-2 in his last 5. He's coming back after a full year away. He's taking on Garrett Armfield, 4-1 in his last 5, coming off that close win over Brad Katana. That was a lock of the week win. Very, very close fight. Brady Hiestand, interesting guy to break down because he's a pretty good wrestler. He's a pretty good striker. He's not great at anything, but he'll do the things he's supposed to do. He does a nice job establishing positions, racking up some control time on the ground. His boxing's just okay. He can struggle if you stay in his face, if you pressure him. He's got solid scramble skills, plenty of cardio, and he is absolutely not a quitter. He's coming off that win over Danan Bagarai where he was losing. Lost the first round, lost the second round, and was able to pull it out and get it done in the third round when he finally got that takedown. He's taking on Garrett Armfield. Garrett Armfield's a busy striker. This guy's going to double up jabs, switch his stance, constantly moving forward, always walking forward, but he does stay controlled. He doesn't take a ton of risk. He doesn't put himself in harm's way, but he does a really good job kicking the legs, working his way up top, takedown defense is pretty good. And while he typically does not look for offensive takedowns, when he does, they're actually pretty clean and he'll work them in well. He's coming off that very close decision over Brad Katana where he was taken down 4 times, but he had the volume striking. And in this world, in this Vegas Apex world where judges hate wrestling but love striking, it's going to be a tough night for Brady Hiestand. This fight could look literally exactly like the Brad Katana fight, with Brady getting a few takedowns but not doing anything meaningful with them. Garrett Armfield moving forward, touching, landing a little bit, and then winning the decision. That's what this fight probably looks like. I am going to pick Garrett Armfield for those reasons. Brady Hiestand has proven that he's very tough, but he hasn't shown that he can completely dominate the striking, completely dominate the wrestling. He struggled to take down Dana Bagarai. When he finally did, that's when he won. And I think he's going to have a hard time taking down Garrett Armfield as well. I don't know why, though. Garrett Armfield trying to meme himself drives me nuts. I can't stand it. I don't know why. It doesn't affect my life at all. But I see it, and I'm just like, ugh. It drives me nuts. Jakey boy, what do you think?
Yeah, Garrett Armfield, former Lock of the Week, absolutely dominated that fight versus Brad Katona. I can't even believe that was even a close decision. It was a unanimous 29-28. It wasn't even a split. I thought it was going to be an easy 30-27, maybe an easy 30-25 in my opinion. But, in this matchup, he's going to be the better striker. That's really all that should matter. He could run into some issues. He was taken down. He has been taken down before. Brady can be kind of a relentless guy. This is the smaller Apex cage, which I think is going to play a factor, right? These smaller guys like to move around. They like their space. And Garrett, I think, is not going to be able to get off the striking as much because Brad is a little bit more active in the striking, so he can kind of play that game with a guy like Garrett Armfield. And Garrett can kind of be more engaged in the striking, and then he'll sneak in the wrestling. Garrett's got to kind of be more on edge for the wrestling in this one because that's pretty much all Brady wants to do. I mean, he will throw some strikes. What worries me as well is kind of the way that Garrett was playing that Katona fight. Low stance, hands low, and was really reacting to a lot of feints, right? Every little feint that Katona was giving him, he was dropping his hands and dropping his hands. And if I'm on the Brady Hiestand side on that, and I'm seeing that in the film, and Garrett comes out with that low stance, I'm ducking that head, I'm throwing those overhand rights, and Brady's a guy, he's a big guy, he's got power, and he can land some shit. So if I'm on the Garrett Armfield side, I try to clean that up. That worries me a little bit because how many times we saw Chase Hooper drop a very accomplished striker with just ducking the head and throwing that overhand right. It was a left hand for him, but the way that he was reacting to those feints, I do not like. But he should be able to handle the striking, do enough to win the decision. But I think that Brady's going to make this a little bit more competitive than people think. I believe he is going to get a takedown or two, and if he gets him down, I think he's going to have a lot more control than a guy like Brad Katona. That's what he wants to do, where Brad kind of plays both games. He doesn't mind if you get up because he can handle the striking as well. Brady's going to be all in for wrestling. If he gets you down, you're going to be struggling to get back up. So I'm going Garrett Armfield here. I believe it's going to be enough striking to get it done, but this one could be a barn burner, man. I think this one could be a really, really close fight. Brady's a dog. Garrett's a dog as well. It's been a close fight. I'm going Garrett.
Well, and in my breakdown, I mentioned how Brady doesn't do as well with pressure, people coming at him. And Garrett is pressure. He does just move forward striking. So I think that'll be the difference too, where Brady's going to be backing up. He's going to have to find his footing to shoot a takedown. But yeah, this should absolutely be a close fight. Are you surprised that Garrett Armfield's a 2-1 favorite?
No. I mean, he showed that he can get back to his feet. What he showed the most, honestly, I think the reason why he won that Katona fight, obviously I was watching that. It was my lock of the week. I was a little bit nervous. He was taken down late in the third round. I was like, fuck, man, here we go. But the sense of urgency to get back to his feet, understanding I need to end this round on the feet with the striking, with this. I mean, he's a high IQ guy. He knows what he's doing in there. He knows how to win rounds. So I'm not crazy surprised by that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess also that win over Brad Katona aged really well. Brad just went out there, destroyed somebody. He was supposed to destroy him, but destroyed somebody. Looked good doing it. Was never in any real trouble. So Garrett Armfield's the pick. I don't have a bet on him. I may, maybe the type of thing before I film my betting video on Fridays, I take a look at the card again. I see what bets I do have. I see where I don't have any exposure. And then sometimes I add something. I may add a Garrett Armfield something tomorrow. We'll take a closer look. But for now, if you do want to unlock all the bets that I do have, all of Jacob's bets that he threw up there a little while ago, as well as the optimizer, The other tools, the line movement tracker, WeWantPicks.com, click become a member. It's $10 for an entire month. Not a week, not a card, not an event, an entire month. We do have a couple of Super Chatterooskies. $2 from Unwell to Brrr. He said Artem's PFL picks were on point. You know what's crazy? I don't watch the PFL. I don't even watch Artem's videos. And maybe I should, because you're like the 5th person to say that, and not for this week. For every single time Artem does a PFL video, I hear about I think he just picked the perfect PFL card 2 cards ago too. So I guess Artem just absolutely blows PFL out of the water.
He's a nerd, man.
Congrats to Artem. I know I give him shit all the time in DMs. I'm not gonna air his fucking shit, but like some of those DMs, and like I forget that Artem's like in his 20s, and I'm 41, and like sometimes I just DM and I was just like, Jesus Christ, dude, like you cannot. This can't be a real conversation. You can't be serious. Another $2 from Unwell to Brrr. Also parlay Gervonta and Benavidez with your MMA picks. Is Gervonta Davis a huge favorite? Is he supposed to win this fight?
Tank? Probably.
Yeah. I don't know what the odds are. I know he's fighting, but I don't know what that's supposed to be. Did you see they had to drag Tyson Fury out of a bar, just a drunken mess that couldn't stand up the other day? He's just not handling that loss well. What'd you say?
Guy can't just go party?
Isn't he like a recovering alcoholic? Like, isn't he not supposed to be drinking? He ballooned up to like 400 pounds.
Guy just wants to have a good time. Yeah, Tank's minus 700.
Yeah, all right. Well, there you go. Yeah, all right. Onwell to another $2.99. He picked today perfect, even with the underdogs. So Artem had a perfect pick today. Artem's picks, both for PFL, UFC, and all the other regional shows, are on premium membership. So make sure you don't miss his page when you're cruising through all of it. Next up at UFC Vegas 93, we have Nate Maness taking on Jimmy Flick. Jimmy Flick, 17-7 overall, 3-2 in his last 5. He's coming off that ridiculously sloppy win over Malcolm Gordon. Taking on Nate Maness, 15-3 in his career, 3-2 in his last 5. He's coming off that knockout win over Mataus Mendanka. Nate Maness is a pretty well-rounded guy. He's got good submission, solid power, good kickboxing, and he is very tough. He's willing to slug it out if he needs to. He's got solid wrestling with takedowns in all but one of his UFC wins and an impressive 78% takedown defense. He's coming off that knockout win over Mataus Mendanka where he didn't even need to wrestle, and Mataus Mendanka is a decent prospect. And if I broke this fight down the opposite direction, if I started with Jimmy Flick, I could just say, you have Jimmy Flick taking on, and then that's it. Like, you just know. It doesn't matter the name I say next. That person's going to win the fight. And that's essentially this background. That's the breakdown here. Listen, Jimmy Flick, slick grappler. Very slick grappler. That submission win over Cody Durden is wildly impressive. But that's basically it. He's got a negative striking differential of 2-5. He lands 2 strikes. He's blasted with 5. His takedowns kind of suck. And outside of a wild Hail Mary submission, there is not much to offer. So sometimes you don't even need to look at the opponent. You can just see who the fighter is and go that direction. Nate Maness is the pick. The odds make sense to me. I'm surprised they're not wider than they are, and they actually might be wider than they are now that Tricoli and that fight dropped. But Nate Maness is the pick, man. I don't see Nate Maness getting caught in a flying triangle or whatever nonsense that might come his way. What do you think? Jakey Bombalots.
Yeah, just don't grapple and you win. And if you grapple, you're probably going to fuck around and lose. And you saw against the Mendoza fight, I mean, Mendoza was going all in on the grappling and the heel hooks and all this. You could tell Nate did not try to counter that. It was just all stay safe, get back to your feet, and do what you needed to do at that point. Obviously, he finished up kind of with ground and pound and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I would like to see a little bit more. And obviously, with heel hooks and leg locks and stuff like that, you definitely have to be careful with trying to get out of those too fast. But if there's ever a scramble, whatever, there's a sense of urgency to get the fuck back to your feet against Jimmy Flick, because Malcolm Gordon found that out very, very quickly, that even if you're lighting this dude up, right, and you're hitting him or whatever, if you slip and fall and you go to the ground with this guy and he gets a hold of you, he literally is just one of those guys that if he gets on your back, you're in big fucking trouble. So Nate should be able to use his length, stay on the fucking feet, don't grapple with this guy, and just hit him in the face like everyone else does.
Completely agree. It should not be more complicated than that. Nate Maness, the odds make sense. He should absolutely dominate this fight. It's insane to spend a ton of time talking about it. And when we look at DraftKings salaries, $9,400 for Nate Maness makes some sense. That is a price point that I can get behind because I just think the level of athlete they're just night and day. They're not in the same league. They're nowhere near each other on that spectrum. So I think Nate Maness wins. I think he wins in dramatic fashion. I think he covers his DraftKings salary. And I think, honestly, at minus 600, it's not the best odds. You prefer a little better. And he was better earlier in the week. I still think you can, slap together a parlay or two and make it worth it because it's a fist fight. Anything can happen. Nate wins this fight 29 out of 30 times. If you do want to check out any of the picks, the bets, the round line leans, the artificial intelligence, or Artem's picks, who just picked a perfect PFL card tonight, go to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member. It is only $10 for an entire month. And Jacob, you know how I always say, we have the smartest community, the wisest, the most observant. There's a lot of weird trolls in this space, but our community really are just smart, observant. They get it. And one of those people is the Prophet. The Prophet, I've always said, this guy gets it. 20/20 vision, very realistic outlook on life, a smart, high IQ guy. So the Prophet, shout out to you.
Take your hat off.
We're just going to... Okay. Oh, fuck. Okay, see? It's not bad. See? Okay. All right. Dickhead. Thought it was going to be worse. I'm growing it out.
I'm getting big news here. I'm getting usually I don't really care about my hair. Usually I'm just a sports clip guy. I get a fade, whatever it is. I think next week before Vegas, I'm going to go to an actual barber and get actually lined up and styled up and ready to go. It'll be
nice. You're going to do one of these lines here and then...
I'm just going to tell him to hopefully give me one of those TikTok transformations.
Yeah.
All the comments are like, wow, holy shit, what a great looking guy.
Dude,
I literally am just going to go in there and be like, I just want a fade of some sort
good.
And just, do whatever you want to do. I don't give a fuck.
What's funny, the TikTok transformations, I would say 80% of them, they do that. What's that comb forward? It has a name now. The comb forward, it's super tight, real low. The fade ends here, and then they just dump all the hair forward. That's the new look.
Well, yeah, I've seen a lot of those people with really bad receding hairlines and stuff will get that, and then all the comments
looks great.
All the comments are like, man, a windy day is going to be his worst nightmare. And stuff like that.
Yeah. It's
some of those, it's like, yeah. I mean, it looks good sitting in a barber chair, but there's no way you could do
when they spray the shit out of it
like that. But
well, the worst is after you get your hair cut, if the barber does it up and they just put a little shit, and they go, and it's the best your hair ever looks. Then you get home and you do the same thing, and it's I can't do it. How did he do that? I think it's the blow dryer, honestly. I think it's the blow dryer.
You don't have a blow dryer?
I do. I blow dry my body after I get out of the shower. I dry with a towel, and then I blow dry them. My neighbor had a very similar reaction. I thought that was honestly, I thought that was normal. I'll get out of the shower, I will dry with a towel, and then I'll blow dry. Just make sure everything is dry, nice, clean, dry. Then I'll put clothes on. Who wants to put underwear on where you're not 100% dried out? I thought that was a normal thing to do. I still think it's normal. And I'm the driest person in any room you'll ever be in. Next up, at UFC Vegas at 93, we have the featured prelim of the evening. We have Tagir Ulanbekov taking on Joshua Van. Tagir Ulanbekov is 15-2 in his career. He is 4-1 in his last 5, and he's coming off back-to-back submission wins. Taking on Josh Van, 10-1 in his career, 5-0 in his last 5. He is on a nice 8-fight win streak. This is absolutely a fight that has the community split. People are loving Josh Van in this underdog spot. And I get it from the Josh Van is good perspective. I think this is a really tough matchup for him. But as far as his skills and what he's doing and how he looks inside the octagon, I totally understand wanting to back him and making him a good dog. He's only 22 years old. He is walking into his 3rd UFC fight. Style-wise, he's a solid striker. He has aggression. He's got a decent amount of power. Takedown defense and scramble skills are okay. And he's this new generation of fighter. So even though he's primarily a striker, he's good everywhere. He can grapple as well. He does a really nice job looking for things in scrambles and making his opponents work. He's coming off that knockout win over a debuting Felipe Bunes. But this is by far his toughest matchup because he's taking on Tagir Ulanbekov. This guy is a very dominant come-forward wrestler. He's got decent striking, but it almost doesn't matter because he's got a nice jab, and right behind that jab is a takedown attempt. All 4 of his UFC wins were very grappling heavy with 12 takedowns and 2 submissions. The only real complaint you could have about Tagir is that while his offensive wrestling is impressive, his defensive wrestling is not. We saw that. Tim Elliott sort of exposed that by working in his own takedowns and dogging Tagir. But that's not going to happen here. That's not who Josh Van is. Josh Van is not going to try to take Tagir down. Josh Van's going to be sprawling and brawling, and I don't necessarily think he's going to have the easiest night doing that. I think Josh Van is a genuine talent. I think he's got phenomenal striking, and I think he's going to look decent in this fight. But I think ultimately the non-stop chain wrestling, never say die, going after those legs style of Tagir is going to get the win. I think Josh may look good early and then start to slow down, or vice versa, right? Get dog walked early, then find his rhythm, defend a few takedowns, feel good about himself. But we're going to learn a lot about Josh Van in this fight. We're going to learn a lot about what it's like to continue to move forward, even though he's getting taken down, getting pushed around a little bit. I think Tagir wins this fight, but this is Vegas. Vegas hates wrestlers, so we'll see what happens. But I'm going with Tagir here. What do you think, Jakey boy?
Yeah, I like Joshua Van. He's definitely a capable striker. He's going to be a guy that's been around. He's going to be around this division for a long time. Only 22 years old. He can kind of do everything, as you mentioned. I mean, he's going to see some stuff in there that he has never experienced in training a day in his life. I mean, the way that he was taken down by Felipe was pretty easy. He's been taken down in the past as well. Even if you know how to defend takedowns, even if you have really good takedown defense, you know that these Russians, these Dagestani guys, they just move on to the next thing and the next thing, and these trips and all this stuff. They have so many tools in the bag. You saw Islam against Dustin, 5th round with that fucking ankle pick, fucking just swinging the leg over. They have so many things they can go to. So yeah, you might know how to defend a single and a double against the fence, but then they're on the body lock, they're on the inside trip, the outside trip, they're doing this, they're doing that. I just don't think Joshua Van's had the time in to really understand the nuances that Tagir is going to bring into this matchup. He could have some success on the feet. He's a tough dude. He's a pressure guy. But I think that pressure is just going to walk straight into a takedown and on the ground. I mean, Cody Durden is a really good MMA wrestler and grappler with really good submission defense, and he's not a fucking pussy, and he's going to try to work out of positions. And I know that was my lock of the week. Trust me, I know there was a situation where Tagir was on his back. He had the toes in the, get your toes at the fence, get the toes. Never took the point, get the toes at the fence, just constant. But I mean, Cody is a fucking tough ass dude, a really, really good MMA grappler, and Tagir kind of took him to fucking school. So, I like Joshua Van. He's going to be around. I actually like that he's kind of up against these not super dangerous guys, especially Tagir, like on the feet, because the worst thing you want to see is a guy 22 years old getting like knocked out clean, and then that's, bad things that happen with that. So if he gets kind of rolled a little bit on the ground, it is what it is. It just, he's fucking 22. He's a good kid. I just don't think that, Tagir's in a fucking prime of his career, and he's got a lot of tools in the bag, man.
I agree. I started with less confidence on Tagir than I have now, right? Or when I first broke this down, I was like, man, Josh Van defending the takedowns, like Josh Van. I started there. And then the more I looked at the tape, the more I break it down, the more I look at it, it's like, man,
To beat these guys, you have to counter wrestle. You have to counter wrestle. If you don't counter wrestle, they can do enough on the feet, and then they'll get the takedown, and then you're screwed. I mean, Tim Elliott was counter wrestling. You saw Volk when he started counter wrestling Islam. That's when he was having success. You have to be able to counter wrestle these Dagestani wrestlers and really try to gas them out. Otherwise, they just do what they want to fucking do. And I don't think Van is going to be able to counter wrestle against Tagir.
Yeah, 100%. Tagir lost to Tim Elliott because Tim Elliott shot first. And he dictated the wrestling, and that's not what Josh Van's going to do. Jacob and I are on the same side here. I think $8,900 for Tagir Ulanbekov is probably worth it because if you know anything about DraftKings fantasy scoring, it loves wrestlers. It loves 5 points for every takedown. Control time racks up. And if Josh Van does scramble, does stand back up, we're just going to get more takedowns and more money out of it. Either way, Tagir Ulanbekov is both of our pick. And if you do want to check out the bets that we have on him, go to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member at the top. It is only $10 for an entire month. People do seem to be betting on Josh Van. This line is tightening a little bit, but not any meaningful amount. We do have a whole bunch of super chats that poured in. But before we go to super chats, we do have this one comment. Ron Southall says, Vegas hates wrestlers, LOL. That was a response to my comment. I said Vegas hates wrestlers. And I'm not talking about Vegas, the sports books. I'm talking about the judges. We have seen fight after fight after fight in Las Vegas where wrestlers get the takedowns, have the control time, and then lose the decision because control time doesn't matter anymore. You could land 2 strikes and then win a round even though you were taken down 5 times. It's all bullshit. We do have a super chat.
Co-main is for this card now?
I just moved the fights up 1 slot, so it was Lucas Almeida, but what is it for real?
Miles John and Andrade. Isn't that fucking kind of random?
He's the next biggest name on the card, unfortunately. This should be the co-main, but I guess they already have it in the feature prelim slot, so it is what it is. We got $5 from...
Brady and Garrett's on the main card. No.
When this was before the lineup was official, they had that as the co-main. I was like, that cannot be the co-main. And then they moved it around. But we got Bo Jiden, $5 super chat. He says, Tagir is a soy little lamb. Josh Van by round 3 TKO to body shots. And that is Bo Jiden's lock of the week. I disagree with you, and I would root for you, but that would go against my money. But thank you so much for the $5 super chat. $1.99 from Sam Rizzuto. He said, quit your jobs. I need the Tuesday stream back, please. The Tuesday stream didn't happen last week because I was traveling. I was in Arizona. It didn't happen this week because Jakey Boy didn't have internet for multiple days, and it's not going to happen next week because I will be in Florida with my family. Next week is probably Wednesday, as long as Jakey Boy's good with that. But I promise you, life will be back to normal in a little bit. Just a couple of extenuating. After that, we're in Vegas. Well, Tuesday will be normal, but yeah, there will be no Thursday. There will be no Thursday show next week, or the week of UFC 303. And before we get to the main card, let me give you $50. Go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our sportsbook partners. Make a deposit, and we send you $50 as a thank you. It's affiliate marketing. You're going to use the link. You're going to sign up. You're going to make an account. We're going to send you $50 as a thank you because they're going to pay me. That's what affiliate marketing is. You will also then head over to WeWantPicks.com and become a premium member. Premium membership will unlock the safety parlay. I am very proud of the safety parlay. Like everything else, it has its ups and downs. We had a 9 parlay win streak and then a couple of win 2, lose 2, win 2, lose 2, and we seem to be back on track. You can unlock the safety parlay for this event for UFC Saudi Arabia and UFC 303 now at WeWantPicks.com. Just click Become a Member. And finally, here is the address if you want to send us something. We've had multiple small businesses send us things that we unbox, we open, and we share with you on the Fight Foods vlogs. The address to send us anything is We Want Picks, P.O. Box 406 in Prosper, Texas, 75078. Let's go ahead and break down this main card. And opening up the UFC Vegas 93 main card, we have Josh Quinlan taking on Adam Fugitt. Josh Quinlan 6-2 in the entirety of his career, 2-2-1 in his last 5. He is riding a 2-fight skid. Adam Fugitt 9-4 in his career, 3-2 in his last 5, coming off a year away and a submission loss. Adam Fugitt is a forward pressure wrestler. That is his style. He's got a very loose boxing style. He'll bounce around on his toes. He's got a high guard, and then he will lunge in for those takedowns. He is incredibly strong. And even when he doesn't have the best takedown entry, he can pick you up and slam you down. He will work through those takedowns. Even though he does have this high guard, it's not tight. and straight punches get right through somewhat easily. He is very tough. He's very hard to put away, but he does get cracked and he does get dropped. He's coming off that one-sided loss to Mike Malott. He's taking on Josh Quinlan. Josh Quinlan's a dangerous striker with very real power. He has 2 wins in the UFC. He knocked out both of his opponents. One of those wins, though, was on the Contender Series, and that was ruled a no contest because of USADA issues. He isn't just a striker. He does have a BJJ brown belt. He competes in grappling competitions. Very dangerous guy. But he is on a bit of a skid, with his most recent loss being a TKO to Danny Barlow in a dogfight. And this should be a fight where we're going to find out how good Josh is or is not. At one point, he was a very big prospect. And then the USADA issue came about, and now a couple of losses. I'm not saying those are directly related, but logic would tell you that they are. And while Fugitt doesn't really have a ton of success in the UFC, his losses are quality. I don't think this matchup favors Quinlan, though. Or Fugitt, though. I do think this is a good matchup for Quinlan. Because while Fugitt can close the distance and get the takedowns, he does have that high guard that you can get through. And Josh Quinlan is a good striker. He is a powerful striker. And we saw in his last fight with Danny Barlow that he can be a dog. Yes, it was a TKO, but he didn't quit. He moved forward. He got into a dogfight. He got beat up. He got smacked around. And he continued to move forward and fight. This should be an even type fight, and the odds just do continue to bounce around. But I do think Josh Quinlan can defend a few key takedowns, land the more meaningful shots, and win this fight. Not to mention a year away, and Vegas hates wrestlers. What do you think, Jakey boy?
Yeah, this is probably a close fight. It's probably a 50-50 fight. I don't really love the striking from Adam Fugitt. I mean, I think it's kind of lackadaisical. His striking defense isn't great. Josh is showing a really nice little counter left that he can throw and land on people, especially people that are a little bit more stiff like Adam. I mean, as far as the striking goes, this is not Trey Waters. This is not Danny Barlow. And this is a major step down in competition. I think you mentioned that he's a brown belt. He's actually a black belt, and I wouldn't be surprised if he used that here. I mean, he's coming off of a TKO loss. He's lost some striking. You're going to see Adam kind of force the wrestling. Josh Quinlan, I think his base really is jiu-jitsu. I think he's more like a jiu-jitsu gym. So if he forced that wrestling, we might be able to see some of the scrambling abilities from a guy like Josh Quinlan. But even if he keeps on the feet, I think he's probably going to be the better striker here. Obviously, it's a hard guy to trust. Ever since the people mentioned the USADA stuff, he hasn't looked kind of the same, don't have the same pop to those shots. But he's going to be my pick, but I'm not betting it.
Yeah, I mean, it is tricky because these are the spots where you can make some very solid bets, meaning, minus
by
120.
Sub plus 1,800.
Damn. That is quite high, but I guess they assume, Adam Fugitt can get the takedowns, elbows in, and not get submitted. Plus, Josh is, at least in the octagon, what we've seen, a bit of a striker. I do think Josh wins this fight. I do completely understand the hesitation, but I think I also put a little more credence into layoffs. A year layoff after getting submitted, neither one of these guys have an entire wealth of fights in their belt, 9-4, 6-2. It's actually kind of funny that on a UFC main card, the pinnacle of this sport, these fighters have just a handful of fights each. It's honestly kind of crazy. You can't get to this level of any other sport with barely having any actual professional experience. But apparently here you can.
NBA players, they draft high schoolers a lot.
But they still have been playing basketball since they were 4 years old.
You don't think these people guys have been training more than 8 fights?
I bet Josh Quinlan, how old is he? 31. I bet he started thinking about competing and doing stuff at 20.
He's got a black belt, so he's probably been doing that for a long time.
Yeah, 10 years. You can get a black belt in 10 years. I didn't, but better men have. $8,300 in DraftKings for Josh Quinlan. $7,900 in DraftKings for Adam Fugitt. Adam might be the better DraftKings play if you think he gets the takedowns, because as we mentioned, 5 points per takedown, a little bit of control time there. If you think Josh Quinlan can finish this fight, $8,300, that may be worth it as well. So pick your side. One of these gentlemen should likely be in your lineup. If it's a back and forth war, you can get some good points out of the winner. If it's a one-sided dog walk, you'll get some points out of that winner. So pick your side here. I am on the Josh Quinlan side. I likely would consider that money at $8,300. You can unlock the picks, the bets, the round line leans, and everything else for only $10 an entire month. Just go to WeWantPicks.com and click Become a Member. Next up, at UFC Vegas 93, we have Asu Almabaev taking on Jose Johnson. Asu Almabaev is 19-2. The opposite of the fight that we just broke down. Both of these gentlemen have good, lengthy careers with a whole wealth of experience. 19-2, Asu Almabaev is 5-0 in his last 5 and riding a 15-fight win streak. 16-8, Jose Johnson is 4-1 in his last 5, coming off a bounce-back submission win. Asu Almabaev is so fun to watch. This guy's a flashy striker and a dominant grappler. He can control the striking range. He'll work in a whole bunch of spinning attacks, and then he will shoot big takedowns and then control on top. He doesn't go looking for submissions, but he does a great job grabbing them in scrambles. He's strong, he sets a pace, and he has an insane amount of cardio. He's coming off of a very fun, high-paced fight over a very feisty CJ Vergara, where he had 9 takedowns and ultimately dominated that fight. He's taking on Jose Johnson. This guy is the opposite. He is not a small, fast wrestler. He is a long, lean Muay Thai striker. This guy is humongous for this weight class. I don't know how he's going to make the weight. I don't know how any of that is going to go down, but this guy is absolutely tremendous for this weight class, and he is a Muay Thai striker. He uses length really well. He likes to come forward and control the center with his speed and his length. He's got versatile striking. He's going to use teep kicks, clinch work, traditional boxing to touch you up. He doesn't have the best takedown defense, and that is going to be a problem here because Jose Johnson is long enough to give Asu trouble on the feet. But unfortunately, he doesn't have good enough takedown defense to keep it there. I think Asu Almabaev does whatever he wants to do. I think he'll close the distance, avoid any big strikes that come his way, and get this fight to the ground. And unlike CJ Vergara, I don't think Jose is just going to keep popping right back up. I think he's too long. And the length actually gives Asu a lot of things to hold on to, a lot of things to tie up, a lot of things to work with. Asu Almabaev is going to be the pick. He's another guy. He's minus 600 right now. I imagine that is going to widen. We just lost the biggest favorite on the card. That money's going to go somewhere else, and I think it's going to go to Asu Almabaev. What do you think, Jeka boy?
Yeah, I don't really get the love for Jose in this fight. You know, he was, and even in the media day to day, I mean, he's 1-1 in the UFC. He was kind of honestly getting rolled by Chad. He basically kind of had to out tough that situation. Good for him for doing that, right? I mean, he was getting taken down. He was finding the reversals that he needed, but he needed that finish. Otherwise, he was going to be 0-2 in the UFC. In the media day to day, he's talking about, I think I can beat Pantoja, and I'm going to be the champ. It's like, dude, you haven't even been in this weight class yet. You're 1-1, and we're getting rolled by Chad and Highlighter. So it's like, what are we doing here? You know, Asu is going to be the pick here. He definitely probably fucks around a little bit too much on the feet. He's got the spinning stuff he likes to throw. He definitely holds his chin a little bit. When you got a 6-foot striker, that could be an issue. But as far as the wrestling and the scrambling, he needed every ounce of scrambling ability against Chad to win that fight. And he's not going to win those scrambles against a guy like Asu, I wouldn't assume. So I'm going to Asu.
6 feet tall at 125 pounds. Do you remember? Probably not. I'm forgetting his name.
He's the tallest of all time, they said.
At this weight class? I forget his name. Corey something. And this wasn't a, like, as we all know, Chris Weidman's leg snapped in half. We know Anderson Silva's leg snapped in half. This was the first time I had seen it. Corey something. I'm forgetting his last name, but this is about 20 years ago. Insanely tall, insanely skinny, just like no, it was just bone, like barely 10, like it was the skinniest legs in the world, and just like snapped in half. And it's just like, yeah, dude, you're too skinny. There is no muscle supporting anything here. And Jose Johnson he's just bone and then skin. It's crazy.
If he works as hard, and I assume he is, I mean, he's not a pussy. If he works as hard to win those scrambles that he did against Chad at 125, I mean, I don't know how he's not going to gas out.
I don't know how he was like, yeah, let me lose a little more weight. It's Corey Hill. Yes, big capper. Corey Hill. It's crazy. Like his body, I'm let's see if he makes weight. And if he does make weight, I am very interested to see how he looks. It would be wild if he pops on that scale. Good to go. Tons of energy, popping his shoulders. All, like that would be insane to me. But either way, Asu Almabaev, big time favorite, should be a big time favorite. regardless of cardio, no cardio, I mean, Asu Almabaev is a dominant wrestler. Jose Johnson struggles to defend takedowns. Asu's going to be worth that $9,500 because he is certainly going to get the takedowns, potentially win by finish, and I will have him in my DraftKings lineup. If you do want to check out the picks, the bets, the round line leans, and everything else that we've got going on this week, go to WeWantPicks.com and click Become a Member at the top. It's only $10, and you're going to get more than just this week. You're also going to get UFC Saudi Arabia and UFC 303. Next up, at UFC Vegas 93, we have the new co-main event. Right now in this breakdown, this is the featured fight of the night, but Jakey Boy just let us know that this is now the co-main event on this card. We have Miles Johns taking on Douglas Silva de Andrade. We do have a little bit of line flipping here. Douglas Silva de Andrade was the favorite when the line opened. He was still the favorite on Sunday when I presented this to you in my quick picks video, but he is now the underdog. Douglas Silva de Andrade, 29-5 in his career, 3-2 in his last 5. He is coming back after a full year away, taking on Miles Johns, 14-2 in his career, 3-1-1 in his last 5, coming off the close win over Cody Gibson. And this is an interesting fight, and I can understand the money coming into Miles Johns, and frankly, I bet on Miles Johns. And I believe I've got a money line bet on him as well. Because Miles Johns is a good, strong wrestler. He's got heavy hands, explosive speed. He seems to have that love-hate relationship with wrestling. You know, that typical guy that was a good wrestler, built his career on wrestling, then knocked somebody out and then said, I don't need to wrestle. I'm the greatest striker that's ever lived. And then headed down that path. Well, luckily, it looks like Miles it was a button hook and he's on his way back. Hey, how about that football reference? Is that a button hook? Comes back to you? Right? Yeah. I mean, I wish Justin was watching. He'd appreciate it. Anyway, Miles Johns is heading back. He caught the ball in that route, and he is headed back to the wrestling because his last couple of wins, he utilized that wrestling, and it's very important because you can't just abandon what got you to the UFC, what got you that success, to sit on overhand rights. He's coming off his 3rd win in a row, all 3 of which needed wrestling to get the nod. He's taking on Douglas Silva de Andrade. Despite his advanced age, he's a very good fighter. He's been around a long time, and if you look at his record, you'll see that he has fought a who's who of former champions in multiple weight classes. He's a compact guy. He has got solid boxing, good amount of power, good BJJ on the ground. You know, it's really just a backup plan. He just wants to stand there, make it an ugly fight, and bang it out. He's got a really good chin. He's an insanely durable guy that you're not going to get out of there. And he's like a little brick that you're going to try to move around. Little brick that you're going to punch and he's not going to care. Little brick you're going to try to take down that he can defend. But he is old. He is slowing down. And I do think Miles Johns wins this fight. But Miles Johns is younger, faster, likely more well-rounded. But he was the underdog up until yesterday. And I get it. Because Douglas Silva de Andrade is wildly durable. And Miles Johns doesn't have the greatest cardio. There have been moments where he slows down, he gasses a little bit. And if he's relying on a takedown in a razor-thin round and he doesn't have that cardio to get that takedown, that could be a little tricky. I am still going Miles Johns here. I do think he gets it done. Ultimately, I just think he's a younger version of Douglas Silva de Andrade with better wrestling. What do you think, Jakey Boy?
Yeah, Miles Johns is probably going to be the pick. I was at that Apex, and I don't know if it translated to TV, but I was able to watch this guy in between rounds. It took everything in my power to motivate this guy to keep him going in that fight, to win that fight versus Cody Gibson, because that dude, even after the first round, was fucking done. I mean, he was fucking exhausted, and I was yelling at him, Miles, this is what he wants to wrestle. This is your world, Miles. This is your world. You got to show him this. I was screaming. I was doing everything I could to motivate this guy to get the takedowns that he needed. And in this fight, it's going to be a little bit tougher because it's a little bit more of a bowling ball. And Douglas de Andrade, who's been there, done that, probably did not win that fight versus Cody Stamen. I think everyone was surprised that he got that decision. So we might see a karma situation here where it's a close decision. He ends up losing it. But I'm going Miles Johns. He should be able to get it done. But, I mean, if you have a bet on Miles Johns, I bet in the middle of the second round, you're going to be a little bit fucking nervous.
Let me check my bets real quick. I feel like I do have one. and I will be sweating it if I do. But
He was fucking tired, man. He was tired. And it's not like it was a crazy high-paced first round or anything. It was a pretty normal first round. And good for him. I mean, he gutted it out, but it took everything he had.
I do not have one on him. I thought I did. Maybe I was thinking about it, but I don't have a bet on him, and now he's not an underdog anymore. So there goes. I got to check. I thought I had a half a unit on him at plus something. I guess not. But I hear you. I mean, you will absolutely be sweating it out because Miles John should win, but just like he won that last fight, super close, and you could see it another way with the heavy breathing and the diving and all of that. Are you going to spend the $8,000 on him in DraftKings, though, or the $8,200 on Douglas Silva?
Nope.
Yeah, I get it. I don't know how high scoring this will be because Douglas is not an easy guy to take down, and Miles John probably going to need the wrestling to do it, but if he doesn't wrestle early, he might be too tired to get it done. So this is going to be an interesting fight. I am looking forward to it. If you do want to check out the picks that I do have, that I'm positive are up right now for premium, as well as Jacob's picks, the tools, the optimizer, and everything else that you want or need, go to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member. It is only $10 for an entire month's worth of access. We do have a $2 super chat. Bo Jiden, $2. A couple of Brazil flags, lock of the week, saying Johns is a bum. So obviously he is on the Douglas Silva de Andrade train. And now that Douglas is at plus money, if you're going to bet him, now's the time to do it. Next up at UFC Vegas 93, we have another fight that a lot of people are split on. We have Lucas Almeida taking on Timmy Kwamba. Timmy Kwamba, 8-2 in his career, 4-1 in his last 5, coming off a loss in his short notice UFC debut, taking on Lucas Almeida, 14-3 in his career, 2-3 in his last 5. He is riding back-to-back losses. We have a very wide line on this fight, considering the public seems to think that Lucas Almeida is going to win this fight. Lucas Almeida is a powerful striker. He loves throwing big, heavy 1-2s. He comes forward. He sets up that big right hand. When he senses blood, he will literally drop his hands, march forward, and throw whatever he needs to try to get that finish. He is aware enough to know that he is a striker and not a grappler, so much so that if a fight ends up on the ground, if he sneezes too hard and they fall on the ground, he will literally just stand, get the hell out of there. I want nothing to do with this. I'm not going to engage in that. I'm a striker, and that's where I want to be. His takedown defense is not very good at 40%. It is the largest hole in his game, and he is coming off that loss to Andre Fili. Taking on Timmy Kwamba. This guy's a striker as well. He's got good takedown defense, fast hands, decent power for the weight class. He does a great job working the body with an early investment, hoping for a late payoff. He's very technical. He is not gun shy, but I wouldn't call him a killer. He seems to take his time. He seems to do what he's supposed to do, but doesn't really hunt for the finish. He's got some takedowns, but they don't look very comfortable. His control is almost non-existent. He's coming off that very short notice fight to Balajioki, where he looked accurate and sharp, and he did show some toughness. And we've got a pretty big favorite here, almost 2-1 on the Kwamba side. And I think that's just a lot of recency bias. He looked good in a short notice loss up in weight, while Lucas is riding back-to-back losses. And if Kwamba was a big-time wrestler, that would make sense to me. I would understand the line gap, but this is a striker versus striker matchup. Lucas has a much deeper resume, fighting the higher level of competition, and I'm going Lucas here. I think Lucas hits a little harder. I think he's going to be the guy that's going to move forward. I think he's the one that's going to be looking for a finish, and he certainly has been in tougher fights previously. I think Kwamba's way more accurate. And that might be a problem here, but I'm going to go the Lucas Almeida side. I think he's a guy that, as long as his chin holds up, he can take over and win this fight. This should be a really fun fight. What do you think? Jakey Bombalotes.
Yeah, this should be an interesting one. I like Timmy here. I think he's just the more technical dude. I can't remember the odds, but I think he was supposed to get kind of rolled by Oki, and he was definitely getting beat up by that jab. But other than that, I mean, he definitely held his own. I mean, that was a split decision loss there. I think that he could mix in a takedown or two against a guy that is pretty susceptible to being taken down and can't control, might play the jiu-jitsu game a little bit too much. But it probably is going to be a pins and needles situation because Lucas is definitely the more dangerous guy. And Timmy, isn't he's probably the more technical guy, and he's does what he needs to do, but he's not crazy lightning fast. He definitely gets hit, and he's definitely going to kind of be standing in front of Lucas. So I'm going Timmy here, but, I could see the Lucas side.
Like, you're like $8,800 in DraftKings, Timmy?
Probably not.
Probably not indeed. I do think whoever wins this fight far more than covers that, though. If Timmy wins, it's because Lucas's chin didn't hold up. If Lucas wins, he just dog walked a much younger, less experienced Timmy Kwamba. I am going to be on the Lucas side. You need underdogs in your DraftKings lineup, and I might shoot my shot on Lucas Almeida. I'm not sure about a bet, plus 165. Great odds there, but I'll have to look a little closer. If you do want to check out the picks, the bets, the round line leans, the DraftKings optimizer, and more, WeWantPicks.com. Just click Become a Member. It is only $10 for an entire month. Jakey boy, we are flying through this card. But before we go to the main event, Crayons Nation just want to let you know, what's up, Jacob? I love cigarettes. Look at you.
I think
got a whole new generation addicted to smoking.
I think you're in two.
What?
I was going to say something, but it sounded like you were going to say something.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think in 2 weeks, you'll probably be smoking cigarettes on the strip.
Me? Never. I told you, the one and only time I ever tried to smoke a cigarette was because the hottest girl in school, the coolest girl in school, was outside in the front in high school smoking a cigarette. She's like, you want one? I was like, I sure do. And I thought I was so cool, and I grabbed it. And I tried to light it like this, like not in my mouth. Just tried to light it like it was a match, like not suck it in. And she just laughed at me, grabbed it, lit it, and then gave it to me. And then we ended up dating. I mean, I don't know if that's what did it, but,
The best one, it's like 2 or 3 in the morning. You're standing outside of a bar and you smoked half a cigarette and realize you've been smoking the filter.
Just the wrong side of it. Just breathe it in the wrong side. It's just that. I grew up in a smoke. My mom's an immigrant. I grew up in a smoking house, and back in the 90s, it wasn't. You knew smoking was bad, but it wasn't like what it is now. Like my kids almost don't know what cigarette smoke smells like. Like if they walk out around, they smell it. Like what is that? Like it's very rare that we'll catch somebody smoking. But the more I think about it, we would just be in my mom's car, her Dodge Avenger, while she's just ripping butts and then drops us off at school. I must have fucking stunk, dude. Just elementary school, just reeking of an ashtray.
Anytime I rolled around my grandfather, it was windows up, Camel non-filters, what he smoked.
Yeah, just
every time he took
disgusting
me
as
to
fuck.
golf, because he took me all my golf lessons and we played golf all the time, but he would just chain smoke Camel non-filters in a little Ford Fiesta, windows up. Don't give a fuck.
Yeah, my mom would only do windows up if it was raining, and it just stunk. And what's funny is because I grew up with that smell. Like later in life, not now. Now it's like ugh, but like later in life, it was almost nostalgic to get into somebody's car and like, oh, they smoke in this car. Oh, that reminds me of my mom's car in elementary school when I would get dropped off just stinking.
Yeah, I remember the first time I kissed a girl that smoked. Ugh.
It is gross. It is gross. But it's like a slutty vibe, though. You're like, yeah. The good ones didn't smoke, Jakey boy. The good ones didn't smoke. Next up, at UFC Vegas 93, we have the main event of the evening. We have Alex Perez stepping up on shortest notice yet again to jump into a main event slot. This guy hadn't fought for years. And now all of a sudden, 3 fights in the last couple of months, his second main event in 2. Alex Perez, 25-8 overall, 2-3 in his last 5. He's coming off that quick knockout win over Matheus Nicolau. He's taking on the undefeated 15-0 Tatsuro Taira, who is walking into his first main event. And Alex Perez is an interesting guy to break down because he is very good, but the long layoff, the lack of wins, had people like me doubting his abilities. He's a very good striker. He's got fantastic low kicks, solid wrestling. He's going to enter that pocket with boxing combinations, then finish exchanges with leg kicks when he circles out. He averages more than 2 takedowns per fight. He has a very impressive 82% takedown defense. He's coming off that knockout win over Matheus Nicolau, as I mentioned, in a short notice main event slot similar to this one. He's taking on the undefeated flyweight prospect in Tatsuro Taira. He remains undefeated. He remains one of the best prospects on the planet. He's only 24 years old, but he has 15 fights with 12 finishes. Style-wise, he's a very patient striker. He has okay power. His hands are strong. His grappling is decent. He does not have the best takedowns in the division, but he will stick with them. He will drag you to the ground, and he will work the jiu-jitsu. He's coming off his first standing knockout win in the UFC. I was definitely an Alex Perez hater when he hadn't had a win in 4 years. I was all over that. This guy hasn't won a fight in 4 years. His first fight back is Almabaev. Good luck with that. And then he actually looked decent in the Almabaev fight. He defended some takedowns. Frankly, the only reason he didn't win that fight is because after defending the takedowns, he didn't let his hands go. If he committed to some of those exchanges, defended the takedowns, and made Muhammad pay for those entries, he could have done quite well in that fight. He was a little too tentative, and I get it. It was his first fight in a while, looking for a win against a young prospect shooting a million takedowns. But it was that takedown defense that gives me a little bit of confidence in this fight. Because frankly, Tatsuro Taira doesn't have the takedowns that Almabaev does. Certainly better at jiu-jitsu, but doesn't have the takedowns that Almabaev does. And Alex Perez defended a good amount of those. If we look at the last fight, he fought Matheus Nicolau. Matheus Nicolau is supposed to be this phenomenal, accurate striker. And the fight wasn't necessarily long enough to know how it would have gone if Alex Perez didn't get an instant knockout, essentially. But all of a sudden, Alex Perez, who's not old, is back. Third fight in 2 months, 3 months, something like that. Fought one of the best wrestlers in this division, defended a good amount of those takedowns. Fought one of the best strikers in the division, knocked him out. And now Alex Perez is fighting a young prospect who hasn't fought anybody near the experience level. I think Alex Perez can win this fight. I think he can defend the takedowns because I don't think Tatsuro's takedowns are that good. And I think he can win the striking exchanges. And we're going to find out if Tatsuro Taira has a little bit of dog in him. We watched him in some trouble in that Edgar Chairez fight. We watched Edgar Chairez give him a little bit of trouble, and he worked his way through that. But Edgar Chairez has since been cut from the UFC, and I don't think he ever got a win. Alex Perez is going to be the pick. I'm going with him in the underdog slot here. What do you think, Jakey boy?
Yeah, I just don't really kind of get it, honestly. We've seen Alex Perez kind of get rolled by grapplers, and people want to say, oh, I think he won that Almabaev fight, but he was getting taken down. He literally just didn't do enough. I mean, there was no, you want to talk about the sense of urgency. There was no sense of urgency on that. Do anything. And he probably do win that fight. He wasn't doing anything. I mean, he was literally just worrying about defending the takedowns. Now you have a guy in Tatsuro Taira who is definitely more well-rounded than Almabaev. He doesn't have the all-in wrestling, but Almabaev was so sloppy. I mean, he was so telegraphed at those shots. He wasn't trying to set any of those shots up. Tatsuro Taira now has well-rounded his game, as young as he is. I was a guy that I could not wait. I picked against Tatsuro Taira all the time. I couldn't wait to fade this guy every opportunity. And then you realize it's too late now. It's too fucking late. The guy is too well-rounded at this point. You got a guy, Alex Perez, that's been out-grappled and out-grappled. Then he comes in, he sparks this, probably the chinniest dude at this point in the division. Now everyone's like, oh my God, Alex Perez, he's going to be the next champion. It's like, what are we doing here? Just like last week when I'm like, sometimes 1 + 1 = 2, and we had Raul Rosas, right? And I'm like, dude, you have somebody that can get out. He's fighting somebody that has shown time and time again that they can get out-grappled. Right? And people are all, oh, Ricky's a tough dude, though, and he's the Dane, and he can do this. No. He's going to get taken down. He's going to get steamrolled. Right? Tatsuro Taira was going to come in. He's going to set up the takedowns with the striking. And we've seen people get on the back of Alex Perez and choke him out, and Tatsuro Taira on the ground is as slick as anybody. Tatsuro Taira's going to roll.
Who has out-grappled Alex Perez? Who?
Yeah, I say he's as slick as anybody. Those are really high-level guys. Tatsuro Taira was as high level on the ground, I believe, as Figgy and Pantoja.
Yeah, but okay, Pantoja got 1 takedown. 1. Figgy had 1 takedown. Nobody has ever taken down Alex Perez more than 1 time, other than Muhammad Mokaev.
They took him down and submitted him immediately. What are you talking about? They took him down and just immediately submitted him. I get that. I get what you're saying there. But I actually he's only been taken down. Well, yeah, because he got finished immediately. What kind of argument is that?
Not immediately. And a guillotine choke is not taken down, submitted immediately. There were 0 takedowns from Figgy. 0 takedowns from Figgy. Alex Perez shot the takedown and got choked, so that doesn't count. So Pantoja's the only person who took him down and then submitted him.
Makhaev was just ragdolling him. A sloppy Makhaev was taking him down.
He got 3 for 20. 17 of those takedowns were defended. I completely agree with you. Alex Perez did nothing with no sense of urgency. I completely agree. It's his fault he lost that fight. But where I disagree is I don't think it's like, oh, Perez has been submitted 3 times, so he's going to get submitted. Because, okay, Joseph Benavidez KO'd him. Davis and Figueiredo did submit him with a guillotine because Alex shot a takedown. And then Pantoja submitted him. That's it. He's got 2 submission losses. One of them was his own fault because he shot a takedown. And the other's to the current champion.
Fucking, at this point, everyone was talking about Makhaev being the next dude. Tatsuro Taira is twice the fighter Makhaev is at this point. And Makhaev looked like fucking shit and still won that fight.
He did win, and he had staff, and I guess, how much credence.
With 0 strike. I mean, the most telegraphed, did nothing, just laid there, and Alex Perez let him win that fight. Now you have a young kid that actually knows how to strike, that can mix in takedowns, is probably better actual grappling than Makhaev.
Definitely better, 100% better grappling. Not better wrestling, but better grappling. But also keep in mind, so we're going to say he was taken down and submitted in the first round by Alex Pantoja. That was multiple years ago, and Alex is the current champion. Literally outside of that, you can't count the Figgy one because he shot a takedown and was submitted in a title fight. I don't know. I don't think this is a crazy line. I think the line makes sense. I'm not saying that Alex Perez is going to dominate. This is nuts, blah, blah, blah. But I do think Tatsuro Taira's wrestling is not good. I don't think it's good. I think his wrestling is overrated. Alex just showed us he can defend takedowns from the best wrestler in the division. I don't have bet openly money, but I'll bet openly you. You want to bet openly it?
The sentence doesn't really make sense, does it?
Well, I'm going to make a deposit if you'll take it.
I'll bet whatever you want.
All right, I'll make a deposit. I'll send you a bet openly because I do think Alex Perez can win this fight. At plus 170, I think it makes a little bit of sense. I do think that the
How
2.5...
does he win? He just defends takedowns, and then people just assume
chops the leg.
Gonna get tired.
Same way he beat Jussier Formiga, who is a nasty grappler, far better than Tatsuro Taira. He just chops that leg down, defends a takedown, lights that leg up. Tatsuro Taira was in trouble against Edgar Chavez.
Was he, though?
He got dropped.
Just a guy just holding onto a guillotine.
He got dropped.
Nonsense guillotine.
He got dropped. Edgar Chavez dropped his ass, then held onto a guillotine in a different round. Edgar Chavez beat Carlos Candelario, Connecticut's own. CJ Vergara, that's a decent win. Jesus Aguilera, not a good win. Edgar Chavez, not a good win. Carlos Fernandes, not a good win. But he did knock him out on his feet, so that was impressive. Listen, I don't want it to sound like I'm like, you're nuts for picking Tatsuro Taira, because that's not the case. I'm just defending Alex because you made it sound like it's just so easy to take this dude down and submit his dumbass. I'll get some bet openly money going. You going to spend the 80? You think he wins by finish? I'm assuming.
Yup.
You would spend the $8,600 on him in DraftKings?
Yup.
All right. All right. Well, Jacob and I are very split here on the main event. And when I say very, if this is the line, Jacob's all the way over here on Taira, and I'm right here on Perez. I'm at the line, but I am on the Perez side. If you do want to check out our potentially, I don't have bets on Perez, but I will place one, our potentially conflicting bets on this fight, but the bets on all the other fights, the picks, the round line leans, and everything else, just go to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member at the top. It is only $10 for an entire month's worth of access. That month is going to give you this card, UFC Saudi Arabia with the new main event, and then UFC 303 with Conor McGregor, because I do not believe that fight has dropped. We'll also send you $50. The only thing you need to do to get it is go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. Use our link to sign up with any one of our betting partners. Make a deposit. We send you $50 as a thank you. It's affiliate marketing. They're going to pay me. I'm going to slice off some of that money and give it right back to you. You can use that money to become a premium member. You'll unlock the line movement tracker, the detailed data, metrics, and analytics, the DraftKings optimizer preloaded with the ownership projections, the safety parlay, which has an all-time event win percentage of almost 70%. You'll also get more than just me and Brazilian Jacob over here. You're going to get Artem who just picked a perfect PFL card tonight on Thursday. You're going to get the Pick GPT. That's the artificial intelligence picking fights based solely off of historical data. And then the betting systems we are developing around the artificial intelligence. And if you want to send us something, here is the address. Jakey boy, any last words for the people?
Probably going to wake up tomorrow to terrible news.
Jacob is stressing the UFC 303 main event. And I get it. That's all Twitter gives a fuck about. So hopefully not.
It's all the main event and the co-main. I mean, spent a lot of fucking money.
The co-main event, the co-main got better when Carlos Ulberg stepped in. That was a better fight. And then now with Jamal Hill out. Like, I liked Carlos Ulberg.
It's a completely new, I mean.
Yeah, they're not getting.
The co-main and the main, according to Ariel, is fucking completely different, so.
Well, you said you think that they got Diego Lopes taking on Brian Ortega. That's a good co-main event. Make that the co-main. That's a quality fight. It matters for the division. It means something. That's a good fight. But I agree. I was looking forward to Jamal Hill losing again because I liked Jamal Hill, and the way he handled that Alex Bejeda loss was just so like, dude, challenging strangers on the internet to fight and stuff. You're 6'4". What are we doing here? Former world champion. What's happening right now? Well, hopefully you do not get that bad news, and neither do I, because you and I will be in Vegas. Guys, thank you so much for the watch. We appreciate every last one of you. We'll see you next week.